Welcome everyone to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. My name is Alexi Boyd, and today is a very special day. I'm super excited to be welcoming a good friend, a colleague, a mentor, a fantastic BAS agent and bookkeeper in her own right, but also an advocate just like me for small business, someone who really supports her clients and speaks out for the rights and the requirements and helping us navigate all of that ridiculous compliance that we have to go through as small businesses. Welcome to the program, Michelle Grisdale.
Thank you, Lexi. Lovely to be here.
Now, you come from an organisation called Rainforest Bookkeeping, which is, of course, your own practice.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful practice because you obviously work a lot with particularly tradies and small businesses, and you yourself have worked through the difficulties of running a small business because your partner runs one as well.
Correct.
And, you know, we're all small business owners ourselves too as BAS agents.
We are, definitely. I love my sole traders, my small businesses, my tradies, because I feel like they really need us. They need the guidance, and they just don't know where to go other than family members.
Yeah, and it's a big problem we're going to be touching on a little bit later in the show, in fact. Now, what I think we're going to be talking about today, because it is that time of the year. Now, we ourselves in our practices have been very busy, which is a good thing. It's good to be busy. It's a crazy time of year. But I think on the other side of the coin, people might not realise how important it is to start getting yourself organised at this yoffy end of financial year period and what it is that you need to do. So I think today it would be really useful to talk a little bit about where the position of small business is at the moment. I think you and I would both agree that they need more advocacy, they need more support, they need less compliance and less red tape. I mean, you know,
Yep.
we run practices on that, but we don't necessarily want any more of it.
It's a lot.
No
Yes.
more headaches for small business, that's for sure. So take me through a little bit about your small business journey, because I think as practicing BAS agents and bookkeepers, when we take ourselves through the journey that is running our own practice, what is it that made you passionate about small business and wanting to become a BAS agent?
I think when I started realising how much time we spend with paper, it kind of raised the issue that everybody's dealing with all this paper and it's getting us nowhere. 3 to 4 hours a day, I almost gave up bookkeeping because it wasn't fun. It was data entry. Then all of a sudden cloud technology came along, and I found out that we can do so much more with our businesses as advisors, and we can find a way to tackle all these paperwork mountains and storage and become good at our business instead of just living and breathing and working in our businesses. We, husband and wives, all we ever discuss, sitting around the table, our businesses.
That's so true, isn't it?
There's just nothing else.
And so I guess the idea behind and do you think it could have happened before the advent of the cloud?
No, I don't. I think it was too hard. I mean, I myself running 2 businesses, I was spending at least 3 to 6 hours a week just on our businesses, just doing something that wasn't making us any money.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. I think probably a lot of businesses go, well, why should I even bother doing this when it's not generating any income? But they don't realise the importance of it, of course, in order to be running a business, just to be compliant, let alone knowing where you stand with stuff.
Yes.
So you're working with all those mountains of paperwork. Where was the light bulb moment? What was it that made you realise that there's got to be a better way?
Yes.
Was there something you saw on TV?
Definitely.
What was it?
Light bulb moment was cloud technology first, and then as soon as cloud technology came along, I found I could deal with a lot more clients, and I was good at it. Then all of a sudden, things like Receipt Bank came along. Things like things so we can just take a photo and not have to deal with those mountains of paper, the storage, the filing. All of a sudden, what was 3 to 4 hours a day was 20 minutes a week.
Yes, exactly.
We had time back.
So really, it was the advent of all those software companies coming up. And do you think that they did it well in the first place, or did they use advisors to really build their program into what was on the ground a better piece of software?
They've listened. They've really learned what we need, how we need to do it, how we can use things like auto publishing receipts that are always the same, how that we can learn now to fetch things from the telephone companies, and all these things we're spending time chasing as business owners and as bookkeepers. They are listening.
Yeah, and I think what's important to note, and it's what I really want today's takeaway to be from the program is, look, we are going to be talking about the importance of getting bookkeepers and BAS agents on your side, because I think more than any other consultants or people who work within your business, they really, apart from perhaps a business coach, but on the day-to-day level, we as an organisation, as a group of professionals, really understand what it is that people do with their money, and therefore how to be more efficient with it, I guess. Do you think that's what
we're taking our advice? Like, so, I mean, I myself have 47 clients, and so what I'm doing is I'm taking all of that knowledge from all those different avenues and compiling it into one, so that I can be that one-stop shop. And if I don't know, I go and find the people that do. So we're giving them another way to get the expertise that's already included in the service. That's right.
I think that's one thing that I'd like everyone to think about with this program today. And it's not necessarily that you need to get together with a BAS agent sort of like every week or anything like that at all. You know, a good person will train you and teach you what to do with those bits of paper and what to do with your cash flow and that sort of thing. Give me an example of a really tricky client that you've come across, which was a complete and utter debacle and a clean-up job, because I think those anecdotal stories are really great. Give me a great example of an awful clean-up job that you had to do because they were in such the poo.
One of my first clients. Love my first clients. I've still got all my first clients, but I can remember the day I walked into the office and there was a whole room of paper. There were filing cabinets everywhere, there were lever arch binders everywhere, and there were stacks and stacks and stacks of paper.
Is this the 1950s you're speaking about?
No. This is just a few years ago. And I walk in and I said, I can help you. Because I can find them a way to take photos, scan, email in, do whatever they have to do to get rid of all those mountains of paper, so that they can find things. First of all, they have no idea where their insurance documents are, their tax documents are. Heaven forbid they get an audit. They have no idea. And I can show them a way to get rid of, and they have an office that's paperless. They can get rid of all that paper. We can use apps to work with them. We can do everything on the cloud, so that now they can go away.
So let's talk about some of those apps, because I think practically it's great for people out there who are envisaging themselves being surrounded by all this paper. That what is it? How do these apps work? Let's talk about Receipt Bank first of all. What is it that Receipt Bank does so well that literally turns those mounds of paper into pure data?
What they do is we go in, within the first half an hour, I've set up their account, I've added all of their users, all of their subcontractors, so that every single person in that business or that has anything to do with that business is doing their work for them. They're taking the photos. Every time they take a photo, the photo's directly into their accounting system. Once we publish it, once we code it, once we check everything, it uses artificial intelligence to go through the amounts, the dates, the suppliers, everything, so that all I have to check is that the GST is correct, the totals are correct, and make sure that the subcontractor actually has an ABN, is registered for GST like they said on their invoice. And this is something that I think a lot of people don't realise is not that difficult to do, and you don't necessarily need to be a BAS agent or have a bookkeeper there. But this is for me a really big red flag, is that there's a lot of and it's just ignorance. I will say it's just ignorance. There's a lot of people out there who think they're running businesses. They don't have an ABN. Yes. They don't have, and then they put on their GST because they think, oh well, I'm running a business. I've got an ABN, therefore I'm registered for GST. Doesn't work that way.
And I think that's probably where the biggest mistakes are that bookkeepers find.
And the other red flag for me is when I go into a business that think they know what they're doing with cloud software and everything is reconciled from the dashboard with no documentation whatsoever. I immediately go, show me who was there, what was there, what happened. Red flags go off all over for me as soon as I see everything just reconciled from the dashboard with no paper.
So let's talk about that for a second, because I know that the ATO ruled a few years ago that they said, I hate this, if you've got a dedicated credit card for your business and everything is being put through on that credit card, then that's just fine, right?
No. And then later on, they said that if your receipt is you have to have every single receipt. If your receipt is for more than $82.50, 75 plus GST, then you have to have the receipt. Now, that receipt doesn't have to be in paper. It can be an image. But what they also say is that if it's under $82.50 and they ask you to produce the receipt, you still have to have it.
Yeah, so it's very
the credit card
doesn't
show you how much GST is on a receipt. It doesn't show you who is there.
Credit card doesn't show you anything.
Nothing.
Credit card statement is often wrong with the date because of the date that it hits your account versus when you made the purchase.
Yep.
It's wrong sometimes even with the supplier name. It's got some gobbledygook, Tullamarine. Tullamarine seems to have a lot of businesses. And then it could be wrong because it's not showing you the GST. So I don't understand when people say to me, but it's fine because it's a credit card and it's a business credit card. And I think,
it's not.
But there's no evidence in that. And you've still got to show in that one line of data from your bank account
and for
all
me,
this info.
Yes, you want to trust your clients. But if I have images of all of those details, I can trust what they say. I can trust where they went. I know what's personal, what's not. Percentages are not an issue. I have it all.
That's right, and it's better for accuracy as well and knowing where you stand.
And real estate, no paperwork to file.
Yeah.
No boxes.
Yeah, that is great. But I think what's important to take away from this as well is that please don't Airtasker it. I went to Airtasker the other day because many of my regular listeners know I'm building a little granny flat, which is going to be my new office. Yay, finally. And I put an Airtasker job on there to just clear some rubble, right? And that was fine, all fine, sorted out. And then I thought, just out of curiosity, I'll go and find out what my profession is and I'll go and look at it on Airtasker. And there's a lot there, but there's people being paid a pittance.
Yes.
And there's people who are saying that they are what they are, but they're not. And what I would say from that is please go to a professional association, find a local bookkeeper, BAS agent who can support you, who is registered and has their professional membership and has their continuing practicing education credits and all the stuff you would expect from other people who are just as important in your business, like your insurer or your insurance broker or your accountant. You wouldn't go to an accountant on Airtasker, would you? Please tell me, listeners, you're not doing that. But I think that that's really important, that there are certainly great ways that bookkeepers can help and help you get under control. And like you said, with those mounds of paper, and there's great programs like Receipt Bank. So what are the sort of questions, if someone is going out there and they're looking for a good BAS agent, apart from going through a professional association, what's the best way, in your opinion, with your experience, to brief someone when they first come in? Say for example, it was those guys who had the mounds of paper. What did you want to hear from them when you first spoke to them to get an idea about what sort of you would expect for the workload?
When I go to a meeting, I ask them to tell me the steps. Tell me what they need to do. Number one, what are their pain points? What's most important? And then from there, I say, okay, you have to do invoices. Tell me, what are your steps to do invoices? Usually there's 10 to 15 steps to do one invoice. I know that I can show them how to do that in quote, invoice, remittance. 3 steps, you're done. That's
within your cloud practice software.
Within your cloud practice software.
And we're talking about, sorry, just in case people who are completely new to this, we are talking about the Xeros, the MYOBs, the QuickBooks, the Reckons. There's a lot of good pieces of software out there. Don't use anything that's free, please. FreshBooks, stop using it. There's a reason why it's free. They don't properly are not ATO compliant. They don't understand the tax rules. We have one of the most complicated tax and employment regulations in the world. So you need to use a piece of software that is going to understand all those regulations. So, okay, so you've talked them through what the processes are for invoicing. What's the next step?
The next step is, how do you do your payroll? Payroll's a big issue, and it's going to become even more of an issue because of single-touch payroll. Luckily, most of my clients don't have to comply until the 1st of July 19, but I know that, this week, everybody else with over 20 employees has to comply.
Let's talk about that, because I don't think it's being talked about enough.
It's not.
We are certainly getting it rammed down our throats as professionals.
Yes.
But I don't think the small business community really understands the impact of what it is. And you know what, ATO, flicking out a few videos here and there and telling people through their emails that nobody reads, especially not small businesses, is not helpful. So let's educate some small businesses now. What happened on the 1st or is going to happen on the 1st of July?
Every single payroll that you issue goes to the ATO. So your year-to-date figures, as soon as you publish that payroll, you hit that button. Hopefully your pay slips are going out. Hopefully that is a requirement. That data goes to the ATO. So come 1st of July next year, There will be no more payment summaries for the business over 20.
At the end of the year, those are the old group certificates.
No more payment summary. They have to register with MyGov, which a lot of people don't know how to do. They haven't done, but it will be a requirement.
The
every
employees.
Single person,
yep.
That's right. Every employee has to has to register with MyGov to get their payment summaries. Now, it won't matter as much because that data will go straight to the tax department. So when you go to do your tax on e-tax or through your accountant or whatever, the data will be there, ready to go.
But you might physically want to see your group certificate at the end of the year, just out of curiosity. Like we're used to getting that, aren't we? But the employees are going to need to have a MyGov account.
Yes. That's right. And data matching is going to play a massive part in this. All the people that are not paying super, you will come unstuck. That is inevitable. It's going to happen. All the people that are behind in their PAYG, you will come unstuck.
And that's what really, this is what the ATO is doing.
The whole reason is.
All data matching. So they're going to be taking the information that every single employer in Australia from the 1st of July is going to be feeding that with every pay run through to the ATO.
It's not realistic.
Yeah. It's millions of pieces of data we're talking.
Anyone who's not on cloud software that's ready, and most of them are close but not necessarily completely ready, they're going to come on. They're not going to be able to file these things. It's going to be so difficult getting the data.
Now, I was speaking to a business literally yesterday who works in my husband's building. He is an audio engineer. He has over 90 people on payroll because he has to put them onto payroll for their talent, people who come in and do a voiceover recording. And so he's got 90 people on payroll, and he still uses a piece of desktop software that he paid for 10 years ago that is not going to be single touch payroll compliant. He's not even compliant now, let alone in a few days' time on the 1st. So what would be your advice to this gentleman?
Get a bookkeeper.
Yeah, but also get a piece of software that's actually STP compliant. And I know that there's a lot of people who might think, well, I don't want to share my data. I don't want to share my employees' data with the ATO. I'm sorry, but tough. These are the regulations that we now have to exist under.
And if they're not doing everything right with everything else, then have they checked Fair Work? Have they checked their awards? Have they checked everything else that goes with it? Because there is so much else, that goes with it. I mean, all of the guys under awards get 3.5% raise as of next week.
That's right.
Do you know how to calculate that?
Exactly.
Do you know how to do that? It's not an option. This is how it is. And the other place where it comes unstuck was with a client I was just with. They put their time. They don't put their timesheets in. They get paid automatically through the bank, and then they catch it up at the end of the month.
Oh, you just
can't do that.
That's a frightening headache for a bookkeeper, right
there. There's a lot. There's a lot that we're losing sleep over, and so if we're losing sleep over, you shouldn't have to. We can make this easier. We can make this so that it isn't a pain point anymore, and then everybody is compliant.
That's right. That's right.
How you're going to pay your tax and your super.
What we might do now is just take a quick break here on Small Biz Matters. You are listening to Triple H 100.1 FM. We'll be back with Michelle Grisdale after this. So today on Small Biz Matters, we are talking to Michelle. Welcome back to the room, Michelle. We are full of information between the two of us, and Michelle is sharing with us some of her excellent experiences dealing with just, I guess, the worst clients imaginable as a bookkeeper, but also that journey that you take them through as business advisors. And I reminded everyone at the beginning of the program that if you are looking for a bookkeeper, please go through your local professional association. Make sure the person is certified and a member. Very, very important, of course. So just before the break, you mentioned hiring, and this is a good, I guess, chance for everyone to take stock of their employees, where they sit. Have you been paying them properly? Have you been paying them on time? Because single touch payroll is coming for anyone with any employees at all, and we've all got to get compliant because the ATO is going to start hunting people down.
Yes.
Through data matching, of course, not with knives, with data matching, which I think is a bit scarier, to be honest. So not to put the fear of God into people, but this is just all about people doing the right thing by their employees.
It is.
So what do we typically see as being the wrong thing?
The wrong thing. Just because it's expensive to pay penalty rates and not pay for Saturdays and not pay for overtime, it's wrong. your employees are entitled to these payments. You have to pay them correctly. And people say, oh, I'll go out of business if I pay them correctly. Well, then you shouldn't have a business if you're not paying them correctly.
That's right. You certainly shouldn't have staff if you're not meeting the requirements. So all 7-Eleven shops should just shut right now. But and that's an important thing, because we do learn a lot from those bigger organisations. What were some of those big mistakes that they make? They don't pay people the right hourly rate.
Their awards.
Their awards, yeah, at the bare minimum. What else?
Your awards have to be on your pay slip. Everything has to be listed separately so that it's easily identifiable. You can see the overtime. You can see the Saturday rates. Saturday after 2 hours or 3 hours, depending on your award, has to be listed separately. Are there allowances that need to be paid? They could be travel allowance. They could be tool allowances, meal allowances.
Uniform
allowances. Gone are the days that we can just claim $150 for uniform and clothing. It's not just something that you just get given. If you don't have the receipts and you're not claiming those, or your employer's not providing that allowance, you can't claim it.
That's right. And what about paying people on time?
If paying people on time, I mean, there are some awards that say that that it has to be in their bank account on Friday so that they can have it for the weekend. That is under some of the awards. If your work week is Monday to Friday, you pay Tuesday. You have to pay on the Tuesday. Your pay slip has to go out within 24 hours. It's not something just because you get around to it. These are requirements.
And again, because people believe that they're going to run a business a certain way, that's fine, but there are certain compliance things you need to match.
And just because it's the way it's always been done doesn't mean that it's okay anymore.
Otherwise, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. And I think what's important to note as well is that what has been creeping up is the penalties that have been issued, not only by the ATO, who looks after they're looking after Super now, and they're also looking at what you pay people and the pay-as-you-go tax you withhold for those people. But then you've got, the Fair Work Ombudsman, who's really cracking down on small business and looking at what they pay them, when they pay them, with the regularity. So you've got a number of organisations who are kind of breathing down your neck a little bit, and you need to be aware of it.
And if you're doing it wrong, it's not just you who's liable anymore. It's you. It's your bookkeeper. It's your accountant who knows you're doing these things. And even if it's obvious to one person, it's obvious to everyone. So if you're paying someone as an employee to do the payroll, but they know they're knowingly doing it wrong, or even if it looks like they're doing it wrong, they can be personally liable.
Can you give me an example of someone where you actually felt that you needed to remove yourself as the bookkeeper because they just weren't doing the right thing?
Even in the instance where I wasn't doing their payroll, but I could see that things were not right. I wasn't doing their BAS, so you'd think, oh, I'm distance enough. You're not distance enough. I knew it was going on. I could see it. I opened a pay run just to do a wage audit, and I could see, 70 hours in ordinary hour pay.
In a week?
In a week.
70 hours.
70.
In ordinary pay, so no overtime.
Pay.
Right.
So again, I'm not doing the payroll, I'm not doing the BAS, I'm not doing the monthly IAS, but I saw it. I'm liable.
And I think anybody out there needs to understand that it's not just your neck on the line in that case.
That's right. And the fines are massive. It's not worth it. You would pay a lot less just paying the penalty rates.
That's right. Even over a number of years.
Yeah.
And if you can't pay them and you can't pay your employees properly, you shouldn't be running a business.
That's right.
Bottom line. So there's easy. Now that we've put the fear of God into everyone, there are ways.
We have a lot to worry about.
There are ways of finding out how to do the right thing. You can, of course. I think the Fair Work. Fair Work, the real one, the real Fair Work website, make sure you're going to the government one, of course,
FWO,
is very useful. It's got a section for employers where you can search by a particular award. You do have your own professional association who you can be seeking advice from as well, and they can help you with that. Now, there's one thing that I think is becoming even more grey than grey, which is employees versus contractors. So that's a bit of a minefield, and I feel like as a professional that they're moving the goalposts all the time. So how do you figure out as an employer if someone is an employee or a contractor?
We do use the government's tools to contractor tools. You do have to ask a lot of questions. There's a lot of misinformation that says that if they're a proprietary limited company, even if they're a single subcontractor, that you don't have to cover them with you don't have to cover them workers' comp because they're covered. But with super, if you know they're only working for you more than 80% of the time, you still have to pay for them. So there's companies out there that say you can advertise with me, and that takes away your compliance. Even if you tell your subcontractor to take that ad and you don't even really put it out there for anyone, then that's okay. You're okay. Well, I'm sorry, it's not. It's fraud. It's just not okay. It's not okay to think you can get around the system. If they're subcontractors and they're working 80% of the time for you, just pay them like you're supposed to, or employ them.
That's right. And the calculator, I think, on the ATO website, which helps you determine from the ATO's perspective if someone is an employee versus a contractor, that has a series of, I think it's up to about 12 or 13 different questions at the moment. It keeps changing. But essentially what they're looking for is the person using your tools? That's the equipment that they use. Is it yours or is it theirs? Can they subcontract to someone else? So if they're sick or they can't do the work, can they get someone else to do it on their behalf? Yep. Do they have any control over the work, or can they? Do they have any determinations over it? Can they make decisions about it? Are you the only one who's talking to the client about this? And all these questions, and then some odd question about the fuel, something to do with oil offshore. I don't know. It was a weird question. It's always there. I don't quite understand what that is. But if you answer these things correctly and you use the tools like us as professionals do, make sure you print it as a PDF, put the person's name on there that you were thinking of, and save it. Because that's you asking the ATO for some advice, and if they give it to you in writing like they have, then and you say, well, I just did what you told me to do, then you're kind of doing due diligence.
But as an employer, if you know that this subcontractor is coming to work for you every single week, they are an employee. Regard whether you've hired them or not, they are an employee.
And really realistically, I mean, a lot of people are now in cloud-based software. All of your major software companies can provide payroll.
Yes.
And to me, once you know the process, it's super quick. It doesn't take long. You make the employee do the work in that they put their timesheets in.
It is their responsibility to get their timesheet in.
And so really it's not, I think it's just understanding what the process is and what is it you have to do.
I think so too.
And again, that's where you seek the advice. And this end of financial year is a good time to take stock of all those contractors that you have relationships with and ask yourself, should I be doing the right thing by this person? Where are we? Where do we stand with it?
And again, they say it's going to cost a lot of money to cover them all with workers' comp and to cover them all with super and that sort of thing. But in the long run, is it? Again, the penalties are huge. And you may have to back out, out of their normal hourly rate for these subcontractors. Yes, you will have to back out how much you have to pay for their super. That's acceptable because they wouldn't get it otherwise because they don't have to pay their super.
And ultimately, that's what the government's trying to do. They're trying to capture these thousands of people, tens of hundreds of thousands of people who are just not paying their own super. And unfortunately, the burden goes back onto small business.
It does,
because
yes.
I guess you're the one who's controlling that relationship with people as well.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the philosophy of why it's important to keep on top of this stuff. So, the burden of feeling like crap because you're behind or you've got the BAS deadline, why is it so important in your experience for people to feel in control and on top of things?
Especially with small businesses, that's probably your biggest stress. Your money and your time, and all you're doing is sitting around talking about your business, worrying about your business, and you need to be living. You need to be not necessarily in your business, and that's really where I came from. I had to find a way. All of my original businesses were husband and wife teams, and they were just about to kill each other because of all the stress and all the time and all the effort to do all of these things. Because when you go into business, you think, oh, it'll be great. I'll just quit my job, raise the kids, spend the time, learn all these things, but they don't have time to learn all these things. They're thrown in and they stay in.
And then they're just floundering.
They're just floundering.
Yeah,
and
for the rest of the time.
They're spending so much time, and you have to start thinking about how much time are you actually losing worrying about all these things. Then you could just, not only that, but how much money are you losing having to learn these things, do these things. continually, do you have time to go on a holiday? Do you have time to go to your child's athletics carnival? Do you have time to do these things? And what is that taking away from your business? Certainly not giving anything to your business.
Yeah, and coming back to what you were saying at the beginning of the program, it's not necessarily something that earns money, so it's put to the back burner as well.
That's right.
When you take on clients and they decide to register for GST, do you recommend that they immediately start reporting quarterly to the ATO? Because there is an option there, isn't there? You don't have to do your GST every quarter. You can do it annually. But what would you suggest as an expert?
I actually don't offer annual reporting.
Why is that?
Because I don't think they have a handle on their business if they're reporting annually. They don't know until it's too late. Whereas I have some that do monthly GST, which is a bit of a pain and you don't get the extra time. But you always know where you stand. You always know where your money is. You always know where you're saving. If you're doing it quarterly, you know how much money you need to have saved. PAYG, I recommend that everybody does their PAYG and their super monthly.
That's
again,
for their
cash flow.
employees.
Yes.
Yeah.
For your cash flow. But for your business, if you're not saving, and quite often it's 30% that you need to have saved for your income tax and your GST, just to cover everything. And very few businesses are able to do that. But if you're reporting annually,
tens of
it's too
thousands.
late.
Yeah. Not only will you not know what you owe,
That's right.
but you certainly might not have if you haven't got a handle on what's going on, you're not going to have the money put
That's
aside to pay it anyway.
With real-time data, with cloud-based systems, we have the ability to have everything at hand, know where we stand, know every single quarter. We have better information from the accountants because it's real-time data.
Mm-hmm. And one of the big features, of course, of cloud software like Xero is the fact that the bank feeds, which is what you would do if you log into internet banking, it's right there, and then you've got live information about when people have paid you, when you've paid money out, and also understanding what. The good thing is, I love it when you spot things for people. You go, sorry, what's that? Did you suddenly get a gambling debt because there's thousands of dollars that have just been removed from your account?
New car.
Yeah.
Woohoo. Send me the paperwork.
Yeah. So, having that real-time data, you're not the only one who's in there all the time. You've got potentially your accountant, you've got your bookkeeper, you might have an admin person who's looking after things for you, and they can see it as well. So,
and also for the end of the year, we have all those documents already because we've asked all those questions, so that we have the insurance documents, we have the asset purchases, we know about all the new employees that we have to keep track of. We know all of these things because we're looking at it and we're putting it in the file so that everything's there for the accountant.
Yeah.
There's no scrambling for all this paperwork at the end of the year.
And speaking of the psychology, I think, isn't it nice to just imagine you get that phone call from the ATO and they go, so how up to date are you? How are you going?
Yes.
We noticed that you've lodged that last BAS late. Does that mean you're falling behind? Or can you just go, no, it's fine. Everything's there. What do you want to know? Tell me what you want to know and I can look it up for you now. What an amazing feeling that must be to feel completely on top of it.
I don't have that fear factor when the ATO calls a client. The client says to me, I just got a call from the ATO, and I go, okay, tell me what they give me the reference, I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
And I call them up, they go, yeah, no problem, just checking.
Yeah, just checking in on you.
Just checking.
Big smiley face, yeah.
Yes.
But I think that's what the joy of keeping yourself up to date, and why it's so important that you do register for those more regular the GST reporting mechanisms. Definitely. Good top tip.
I agree.
You are listening to Small Biz Matters here on Triple H 100.1 FM, your local community radio station in the Hornsby-Ku-ring-gai area. We're going to take a quick break here and then come back with Michelle with even more top tips on how to deal with the end of financial year. You're listening to Triple H 100.1 FM. Welcome back to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. My name is Alexi Boyd, your trusted admin advisor, small business advocate, lover of all things bookkeeping. And today I have another lover of all things bookkeeping, which is my special guest, Michelle Grisdale from Rainforest Bookkeeping Services. Bookkeeping? Just everything. Because when you are a bookkeeper, you are in everything.
You definitely are.
We need to put management consultant at the bottom of all bookkeepers.
I do like trusted advisor.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah, knowing how you do stuff with your money.
Because what I do is different for every single client, because it's based on their needs. It's not based on what I want to give them. It's based on what do they need from me. So if I'm designing a domain, I can do that.
You can?
Sure I can. Absolutely.
Okay.
There's nothing. I can...
See, I don't have a creative bone in my body. Numbers.
My background's marketing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And this is what I love about the show, because we talk to all of our guests about those journeys that they go on and how they move through their small business life. And my kids say, Mum, you should be what was the other one they came up with the other day? You should be a politician. Well, yeah.
No, thank you.
And I go, well, I did say, well, that can be my 5th career.
Yeah.
The possibilities are endless. We are only...
I had a mother that told me that can't was not in my vocabulary. My mom told me I can do anything I want to do, and so I do. The things I can, I find an expert that does.
That's right. And often because we're so well connected as bookkeepers...
Yes.
We can offer people with that, because I think what people think, people don't realise that when you are any consultant really, you are not only consulting to a specific genre, you're consulting across a myriad of occupations and businesses and different circumstances. So quite often with the experience comes the exposure to someone who's been in a similar situation, and no doubt you can help. And guess what? If you can't, there's always
somebody else.
Social media where you can ask someone for help.
Yes.
And that's so important. So let's talk a little bit about a topic which I get very impassioned with, and I get on my soapbox a little bit with, which is TAFE.
Yes.
Now, I have talked a lot about the program, and I've had local politicians in here where I've literally harassed them about them ripping the guts out of TAFE. But let's talk about what those TAFE courses offer for students who are coming into the big wide world, and do you think it's adequate?
What I think TAFE's a great system. I know a lot of TAFE instructors, and it's very good to get these kids in the workforce and teach them how to grow. But what it misses out on is teaching them, tells them they can get out there, get qualified, and have a business. Well, it's not exactly true. They're not teaching them to run a business. They're giving them no skills to run a business. They're not telling them what they need to do. All they're teaching them are the skills for their trade.
The doing.
That's it, just the doing. And that's just not enough. And that's really...
But don't they have elements of bookkeeping and business structures and running a business in your experience? Because I know you've got a lot more tradies on your books.
I don't see any of them. They're not taught how to use an app. Where they get taught how to use things are on the job. 15-year-old kids, and we first thing we do, we send them their invite to Xero, send them their invite to Receipt Bank, send them their invite to ServiceMate, and we have to teach them how to fill out a timesheet. They have no idea.
Are they innately better at it than the 40-year-old tradies?
They can use the apps. That doesn't mean, but hey, it's still garbage in, garbage out.
Yes,
if they don't know that a normal work day is 7.6 hours, and you don't include your public holidays and your leave and your lunch break, then it's still not good information if you're not training them how to do it. So I do spend a lot of time training them how to do those things.
And that's really at the point that people should be engaging with a professional, isn't it? At the point of setup.
At the point of setup.
Yeah.
And the clients that I have, one particular right in here in Hornsby, brilliant. He's a plumber. He knew what he wanted to do from day one. He'd worked through his apprenticeship with somebody else, decided to start his business, and he started off with a proactive accountant and me. Yay! He now has 6 trucks on the road. A lot of young apprentices working. They're full of energy. They know what they're doing. They're set up. They're making money.
I guess today's program is a really good lesson in, if you are floundering, if you are that person who's drowning in the paperwork and got the receipts everywhere, don't panic. There is help at hand.
Yes.
You might have to throw some money at it. It's not going to be free.
Yes.
And certainly not going to. It's going to be, the better job is going to be the more expensive job. I'm sorry, but you pay peanuts, you get money.
The longer you've been in the mess, the more money it's going to cost to get out of it.
That's right. If you've got an accountant who is proactive, as you said, and we love those proactive accountants who go, for goodness sake, would you just ring this person?
Yes.
Would you just get in touch with them? And then they will keep harassing you. Listen to the first time, because they are trying to give you some good advice and put you onto good people. And we say on Small Biz Matters all the time, surround yourself with good people. Find those excellent consultants and advisors. And I'm not saying that you're going to be ringing the phone. You're not going to be ringing your lawyer every week for another question and another $500 bill. But you know when the time comes, you've met them, you've trusted them, you understand them, they come well referred to you, and that's the person you've got on the end of the phone call, and you've done your
yes,
you've worked out. And it's another good time, end of financial year, another good time to sit down and look at, well, who are my advisors?
Yep.
Who do I need to surround myself with?
TAFE has introduced something called fully subsidized skills for business training. And that's a step at least in the right direction. But it's not aimed at your tradies. It's aimed at the people supporting the tradies. So the tradie wives.
Really?
Yes. Yes, it is.
So specifically this program is for them
It's called
to...
Skills for Business through TAFE, and it is for your budgeting, your forecasting, your small business accounting. It's for your website development. It's for all these little things. They're online courses. They're short. Again, fully subsidized. You can take one or all, and at least that gives you the information to find out what you don't know. Where do you need help? Where are you good at it? But at least it is. They are online courses as well. So if you're at home with the kids, you can do something when the kids are napping or when you have a day off or whatever.
And I should say
work on yourself.
And we should say the ATO has an excellent small business, I guess for want of a better word, channel.
Yes.
With really great videos. They're very well made, and they're very instructional and clear, and you can really, you can spend your evenings... I hate to say it, but just really educating yourself and getting yourself up there. But that takes time.
The thing is, when you find out what you don't know, it is exciting, because you find out where you want to work in the business or whether you want to pay somebody else to do that. Because businesses think it's more expensive, to pay somebody to do it. But it's not more expensive to do it all yourself and to keep it all in-house and to have the wife or the mother or whoever do it. But is it really cheaper? I don't think so. It's costing you so much in time and money and
energy, emotional energy.
Emotional
That's right.
training. And think about it. If it takes you 3 hours per week doing invoicing and paperwork, how much money could you be earning during those 3 hours?
Yeah. And okay, so this is where I love to recommend to people. I call it the small business calculator. So you sit down, and this should really not take you very long at all if you've got actual books that are up to date. But have a look at your expenses. Right, add them all up on a really basic level, divide it by 38, because supposedly we only work 38 hours a week.
Yes.
Divide it by 48, because we all take 4 weeks off a year. And then that gives you an hourly rate.
Yes.
Now, that tells you, and I only ever did this once, and I had a plumber who turned around to me and said, $64.28. I went, wow, you've done this. And know how much it costs you to run your business per hour.
Yes.
If you're not earning that, then you've got a problem. But also, more importantly, that if you know what someone who's going to help you, what you need to position their price point at, because
that's correct.
What is it more worthwhile for you to work in your business rather than having them do this work for you? And they're going to be faster at it than you are.
Yes, and they have the expertise.
Yes, exactly. And knowing what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done.
To ask, yes.
So just finishing up today, you mentioned at the beginning of the program this customer who was drowning in the paperwork, and you started instigating cloud-based software. So you took them through the apps and you started clearing that all out. Worst case scenario, what was the length of time that it really took them to get under control once again?
The hardest time is not getting everything implemented. The hardest thing is getting them to stop bad habits. So it does take a little bit of time, and it usually takes a couple of years for people to realize that they can actually get rid of the paper, that they don't need it, they don't know what's there, they don't know where to find it. And then once you get to past that, then you all of a sudden one day you walk into your office and everything's clean.
Neat and tidy.
Everything works.
Yeah.
Everything's just so organized.
And you can get rid of your printer.
Yes.
I don't have a printer, everyone.
No,
I don't
use
own a
PDF
printer.
scanners. Everything's. I can run my entire business anywhere on the phone, and so I do. I conduct meetings at cafes all over this place. I'm in my office 2 days a week. I answer my phone 24 hours, 2 days a week. The rest of the time depends who I'm with, depends what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm working on myself. Sometimes I'm working on my business. Sometimes I'm meeting with clients. It's just all changed.
And you need to sit down, I think, and allocate a little bit of time. Maybe take yourself out of the home, take yourself away from that paperwork, which might be giving you a bit of an overwhelming feeling, and take yourself off to the library or somewhere quiet that's different from where you normally work.
I love movies.
No, I didn't mean to watch a movie. I meant to think about. She's like, I just want to stop. No, I mean, take yourself into a different workspace, maybe in local cafe. That's a good one,
yes.
And actually sit down and work out. Okay, so hypothetically, if I never had another piece of paper again ever,
Yes.
And my fantastic trusted bookkeeper has given me these processes moving forward, but I need to get my emails and my files organised so I can find stuff.
That's right.
So that might be a little exercise for people to do at the beginning of the financial year. So let's go through our top tips from today's show for end of financial year. Number 1, get organised, get everything up to date, really, so your June BAS doesn't, slide away into September and October. And then if you've done your June BAS, you're ready to go with your financial year,
Yes,
really.
That's right. End of financial doesn't have to be a big task if you've done everything on the way through the year.
Have a look at your relationship with your current employees. Are you paying them correctly? Is there a pay rise coming up because they're on an award wage for the 1st of July? Have a look at your relationship with your contractors. Should they be employees? Are you paying them correctly? Should you be paying their super? Get a good bookkeeper through a professional association. And I guess have a look at your systems and processes and find a way to be more organised and automated, either through the use of apps
Yes.
or just feeling more in control yourself.
Where are you going to get your time back?
That's a very good question to ask yourself. 1st of July, everyone. 30th of June is a great line in the sand day, and you can step over that line and really make a difference. It's not, I think people get bogged down in their day-to-day, the way they do things.
And I think a lot of small businesses and sole traders don't realize that there is help out there. They don't have to take everything on their own shoulders.
That's
they don't
right.
have to take all the stress.
And there's a lot of free help as well.
There
You know,
is.
the government has a lot of videos to watch and a lot of
Yes.
advice, and it's really just about educating yourself. Think of it as another TAFE course. Think of it as another unit of work that you need to do, where you need to educate yourself and write notes and get some, even if, and this is what I say to everyone when they listen to the show, if you just walk away from today with just 2 things that you can do this week,
Yep.
excellent. That's great. Two more steps forward.
Find some like-minded people. Find not the naysayers and the negative people. Find the people who actually want your business to succeed.
Exactly.
Surround yourself with those people.
Well, I'd like to say that everyone should surround themselves with people like yourself, Michelle. Thank you very much for coming on
you.
the program. Now,
Thank
give
you.
us a quick plug for your business and how people can find out more information.
Rainforest Bookkeeping, we give you time back to enjoy your life. I work everywhere. I do what I love. I love what I do.
Not many people can say that when they're running a small business. So congratulations for getting to that point. Thank you for coming on the program. Now, for those of you who have just jumped in or have only listened to half of the program, you can, of course, catch up on our blogs and podcasts page available on smallbizmatters.com.au. Don't forget to check out the event calendar, which has a very full list of all the events happening in and around Sydney for small business. And, of course, if you yourself would like to come on the program or share an event with us, just get in touch. We also have the Facebook page, Small Biz Matters Australia, and there's lots of things happening in and around your area, and just get educated, and that can be a great takeaway from today's program. Thanks very much for listening, everybody. When you come back next week, we've got another fantastic guest lined up sharing their expertise. You have been listening to Small Biz Matters with Alexi Boyd. This is Triple H 100.1 FM.